Guys, I love Bill Nye the Science Guy. I think he's the best. I grew up in the 90s, okay? I remember watching Bill Nye the Science Guy growing up as a kid and being totally into it.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
But when I watched his recent open letter to President Obama and the taxpayers at large, my heart broke a little bit, okay? It hurt me to see a man whose work I so tremendously admire deliver what was essentially a sales pitch.
We recommend that Planetary Science receive $1.5 billion a year.
That just wasn't very convincing. And I wanted it to be convincing because I believe in his cause. I believe in Bill Nye the Science Guy. I know he's a genius. But after watching the video several times, and I'll put the link in the description below, I couldn't help but feel like this is a great opportunity to kind of deconstruct what was going on in his open letter from a sales pitch kind of perspective and look at, what kind of things he could have improved on for the sake of conversation. Number one, guys, a sales pitch is a lot like a persuasive argument, but instead of a thesis, what we have is a call to action.
Oh yeah, come shop with us. I said flea market.
Or a solution that you're offering the audience, and by the end of the sales pitch, you want them to believe that this solution or call to action is totally in their best interest and that they want to go along with it. But what's absolutely crucial about a sales pitch, you need to have identified a problem that the solution solves before you make the call to action. I guess in a thesis, it's quite similar. You need to have a premise. You need to have a context. Otherwise, what you're out to prove, what you're out to say, it doesn't really have a strong foundation, okay? Because we don't really know why you're mentioning it. We don't know why you're bringing it up. After watching Bill Nye's sales pitch, I couldn't really find the problem. And I've watched this thing like several times. Guys, we need to get $1.5 billion for the space program. But what's the problem that a space program is out to solve? He hints at it.
Over the last few years, Congress has added back funding for the planetary program that the Office of Management and Budget has cut.
But what is the problem? I mean, you and I, just sitting here, can probably make a short list of problems that a robust and well-funded space program can solve. Not in this Bill Nye sales pitch did I hear a one of them, none of them.
But planetary science deserves special attention because it is special.
Sure, he lists off all the wonderful things, all the wonderful places we can go.
Undiscovered worlds and Sector 8.
But where is that problem? Where is that sense of urgency that really sets the context for why we're listening to this sales pitch? It was missing. I recall you to the budget hearing between Ted Cruz and that NASA space chief, Charles Bolden. Listen to this.
It is absolutely critical that we understand Earth's environment because this is the only place that we have to live.
Now that is a premise, and it makes me want to hear more from this guy about what the solution is. Number two, facts add gravity to your thesis, no pun intended. Without them, you don't really get, the big picture of what's going on here. In Bill Nye's message, there was a golden opportunity to drop some amazing examples of how much the space program and NASA has done for us as citizens and for the private sector and the economy, But instead what we got was something like this.
It inherently leads to innovation because we invest in solving problems which have never been solved before. That in turn creates new businesses and economic growth.
I go to expos all the time. I hear corporate speak constantly. We're gonna innovate more innovation. We're gonna be the leaders of innovation, guys. We're gonna be the leaders of innovative innovation. You can't say innovation unless you give an example of what you're talking about. It is such a vague corporate nothing thing to say, to invoke the innovation stuff. And what kills me is that we know that NASA is an innovator. We know it. Put it in the sales pitch, Bill Nye. Put it in there for everyone to hear. All these, I went to the website, 5 seconds, I'm looking, and I see all these things that I didn't even realize that NASA is responsible for innovating and giving to the private sector and making our lives much more comfortable and safe. Where was that in the sales pitch? Bill Nye, come on, this was our shot at the space program, come on. You gotta put this stuff in the pitch, buddy. And you know what else would have been great? It would have been great to hear him compare that $1.5 billion number to other money that's being spent by the government that we can all agree is over expenditure. You know, for example, the B-21 stealth bomber weapons program is it's now estimated to be approximately $60 billion. Why not mention that and say, look, why can't we carve out $1.5 billion out of that program for our program? It brings the number to life. And again, all these kinds of examples that you bring into your sales pitch, it brings color, it brings life, it brings context to what you're talking about. We want the person listening to agree with us. We want to give them concrete examples. We want to give them those things that are going to help them agree with us, okay? We have to give it to them, because if we don't tell them, they're just not going to know. Number 3, you have to make a strong conclusion. Bill Nye wasn't exactly guilty of this, but remember, consider your audience and make your message stick. By the end of it, you should have given your audience a really strong choice to make that has very real consequences. If they're not on board with your solution, they have to go this route, and that route is not going to be helpful for them. You've got to make it crystal clear in that conclusion what is at stake, okay? From what you've proposed to what their alternative is. It has to be a strong choice. No one can sit on the fence. You're in or you're out. From Bill Nye, we got
supporting a robust space program raises everyone's expectations of what's possible.
which is a pretty good conclusion, but I thought that was his opportunity to really hit a grand slam, to knock it right out of the park. This is epic stuff we're talking about here. What's at stake is way more than people's expectations about science. What's at stake is our very understanding of nature and reality, and all the technological breakthroughs that come from pushing ourselves to the absolute boundaries of exploration and travel. The very fate of humanity rests on and has always been propelled forward by these kinds of scientific achievements. Bill, you've got to let the audience know what's at stake. You've got to let them know this is really noble, deep, serious stuff. Conclusion. All right, now the pressure's on, right? I just made a whole big spiel about how your conclusion has to be so strong, and I feel the pressure, all right? I'm gonna do my best right here to convince you of of everything that I was just talking about. Guys, sales is not a dirty word, and not all sales pitches are made for used cars and crappy merchandise at the beach. Making a great sales pitch can be a noble thing, and learning to appreciate the craft of persuasion and using it for good can be a powerful tool for anyone, be they a business person or a science person or an artsy-fartsy person, anyone. If you take your pitches more seriously, you start getting more opportunities to do wonderful things, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. Lastly, my salute goes out to all the brave men and women of the public sector, like Bill Nye the Science Guy, who have to constantly fight for the budgets they need to educate our kids, save lives, and keep our cities clean, among other things. Guys, I hope you don't think I was too hard on Bill Nye the Science Guy. Again, it's all constructive criticism. I adore the man, he's fantastic. But I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this little exercise in talking about what makes a good sales pitch. Next week, I hope to go into it in a little bit more depth, maybe not next week, but in one of the coming episodes about, what really makes a sales pitch, or, what makes a sale happen, kind of deconstructing it. But yeah, for now, good luck with your sales pitches. Subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.